Hi, welcome to Ocean Yumi's channel. So today I'm going to do a little bit on the whistleblowing situation because of Lucy letby, whatever, letby. And there is a new government bill that's come out about whistleblowing. Hold on, let me see if I can get this started a bit because there's a few information I want to get posted up while I'm here. So I'm going to start from where it all began with Lucy Letby and the whistleblowing when the doctors tried to let the managers know what was going on with Lucy at the time and how the managers turned a blind eye. They were saying that how they was harassing them, right? So the chilling warning that scandals across the NHS will be covered up as a staff say whistleblowers are ignored. So really there is a law, even in care, that if you see something that is not right, you go and you have to let the managers know what's going on. And these is what the doctors did. They let the managers know what was going on. And she turned it into a whole harassment thing. Right. So more than half of the NHS bosses would ignore whistleblowers, and amid fresh concern, hospitals could be covering up potential scandals following Lucy Letby case. New national figures shown by the publication revealed that the majority of the hospitals, most doctors, nurses do not believe their common concerns be acted upon if they were raised with senior managers. It comes after the Independent revealed that the NHS bosses, I don't know if I can get this thing off the screen because it's bugging me. Right. It comes after the Independent revealed that the NHS bosses accused of ignoring complaints about letby, while the very same people later pointed to the act on the whistleblower concern at the hospital, or the same murdered. Oh, sorry, the volume was low. I'll start again. So basically, because of what happened to Lucy Letby case, there was a lot of concern about the NHS and what happened with the whistleblowing thing, with the whistleblowing. So what they're doing, they're setting a new policy concerning for the whistleblowers. Okay, so as you didn't hear me the first time, I'm going to repeat myself. So when something is off in the NHS, in care, whatever, there is a thing where the colleague can whistleblow on another colleague, which you go to the managers and the manager's supposed to do something. They're supposed to dissolve it. But because Lucy said that she was harassed, they ignored the whistleblowing that was done. So what I'm going to read here right now is why there is a concern and why they're putting policies concerning this. So as you see, I started to read. About half of the staff believe that the bosses would ignore the whistleblowers, and fresh concern about the hospital could be covering up potential scandals following Lucy Letby. All national figures seen by the publication revealed that in the majority of the hospitals, most doctors and nurses do not believe their concerns will be acted upon if they were raised with senior managers. It comes after the Independent revealed the NHS bosses accused of ignoring the complaints about Letby was the very same people later appointed to act on the whistleblower concerns at the hospital, where she unalived 7 babies and tried to unalive 6 more. Several doctors who worked alongside her during the killing spree say they have attempted to raise the alarm with the hospital managers, only to have their pleas ignored. They believe the lack of action by bosses resulted in more babies being unalive, stated in managers who failed to act grossly negligent and facilitated a mass murder. In nearly three-quarters of the general hospitals, such as the Countess of Chester, where Letby worked, a fewer than half of the staff believed their trust would act on concern, according to the results from the latest NHS Star survey. As the figures were revealed, the NHS was accused of widespread passively problem with addressing the whistleblowers' concern. Doctors who raised concerns about Letby said more needs to be done to protect the whistleblowers and have called for new laws to regulate the managers working in the NHS. He warned of another major scandal waiting to happen if the NHS hospitals fail to address the issues. I fear the same thing which happened in East Kent, Morecambe Bay will happen again and again, he said. Rob Burns, the Parliamentary Health Service, also warned of a dismissive and defensive attitude against the NHS. He added, it seems leaders are more concerned about the reputation of the organisation than the patient safety. This does not suggest an open, honest, transparent culture that encourages people to raise complaints or feel confident their concerns will be listened to. According to the survey, in 87 out of 125 general hospitals, less than 50% of the staff said they would feel confident that a concern would be listened to. Once the community and mental health hospitals was included, the number of staff who felt confident in blowing the whistle was below 50%, or 108 out of 220 hospitals. Separate figures also shown the number of whistleblowers complained to the NHS nationally. Whistleblowers' office about their treatment for speaking out has quadrupled in 2 years, from 117 to 937. Okay, meanwhile, the charity representing NHS whistleblowers told The Independent that 60% of the people they dealt with so far this year felt victimised. After raising concerns, 40% of the whistleblowers said no actions have been taken over their concerns. Dr. Kurdock told The Independent, without a doubt, we have a problem. I've obviously seen it many times, but everything I've seen, heard, including the STAR survey data, suggests this is a much widespread problem. I think it tracks back to this thing that we tend to call a reputation management, which is the reaction of the people and organizations to find the reasons to deflect in the numbers of protecting the reputation of the organization, and to be frank, sometimes themselves. I think that's one of the reasons why they not only don't welcome what they would say is bad news in the circumstances, but they would actively suppress it to determine of the people who are trying to raise the concerns. Anne Lloyd Keane, chair of the Patients Association, will represent the NHS patients, said the open culture the staff can actively raise concern is critical for the patient safety. For many NHS trusts have a defensive culture. She added that the trust sometimes regarded the patient's complaint as an annoyance or a threat, and added that closing ranks, denying and defending are a common feature throughout the long, shameful list of NHS low safety scandals. The letby trial shows the same thing happened when the clinicals raised their concern with with all full circumstances, she said, according to the National Guardian, for freedom to speak up, office appointed by the Care Quality Commission to represent whistleblowing officials in each NHS hospital. There was 937 cases in 2022 to 2023 brought to it where staff were suffering deterrent as a result of speaking out. Okay, I think when they would ignore them. Oh, hi. Hello. Hi, people. Hi, everybody. So the NHS has a new policy out that will, with a whistleblower, let me see if I could find, there is actually a policy, a bill for the whistleblowing, which is here. Let me see if I could find it. Where is that? So there's a bill. Let me put it on the bill. So the bill, the new bill is of making a protective disclosure. So an employer must not discriminate, harass, or victimize any person because it appears to the employer that the person has made or may make a protective disclosure. For purpose of the Act, a person discriminates against another if protective disclosure or threats be unfavorable. So there is supposed to be another bit, because this is the bill for the whistleblowers. Yeah, now she's woken up now. So this is the protective speak up, stop harm, whistleblowing bill updated from January 2022. I'm trying to find the one with the unfair dismissal, because there's an unfair dismissal. There is a gagging order. Hold on, I'm trying to see if I can find the whistleblowing thing. So extend the scope of whistleblowing meaning. In this act, protective disclosure means a qualifying disclosure made by any current or former employee, worker, or other connected person, including any persons identified in Section 43K, and a disclosure made in accordance with the Sections 43C to 43H. So for the purpose of this part, any person who makes a qualifying disclosure is protective against discriminative and unfair dismissal in accordance with this Act. Such persons include but not limited employees, workers, including agency, contract workers, job applicants, those who acquire information during a requirement across self-employment. It goes on, there's a whole list. A protective qualified disclosure should be protective for the detriment in the same manner of a person making a disclosure. So this was the Whistleblowing Act. There's a whole heap to go through. So the explanation, this clause aims to replace the current worker under. So this is regulations. Okay, I don't know the law that well, so I'm not going to go through it like I know what is what. Okay, but there is a whole law And I think they've updated this one now because of Lucy Letby. So let me see. See, this is it. Employers' procedures shall include a channels for receiving the disclosure, which are designed to set up and operate in a manner that ensures the confidentiality of the identity of the person making the disclosure, prevents access to non-associated persons. Don't know which part to read. Diligent. So there's supposed to be a follow-up. They're supposed to take action, and there's supposed to be a result. This is I think D and H. But in most cases, right, there is a part where you do actually make a complaint on the colleague anyway. This is fact, because I know when I did it in my training, this is a fact. So when the managers ignored them, they could have gone to the union and gone and spoken to the union, probably have to go over their heads. But I don't know how it is exactly with the NHS, but I know in certain I wouldn't say industry, certain professions, right? You have to make a former. You have to write down whatever was going on, which is probably what the doctors did, and the managers took no notice of what was said. Now, like I said, I don't know the law verbatim on everything. I ain't no thingy, but but on the Reddit, let me see, they was talking about the managers and how the managers should have listened. So let me go to the Reddit, so you can see where they said that the managers should have done their part. So in this part, expecting managers to be regulated is a poor cuckoo land thinking. It's unfeasible and would just become a massive tick box exercise that would ultimately be negative impact the front line again, which actually needs to happen in about 3 decades of managerism needs to be slowly reversed, and doctors need to stop being treated like the GMC every time they raise concerns. So the person says it has gone from being a regulator that ensures concerns related to the doctors that dealt with appropriately to much more insidious organization that is how now actively in causing harm to patients. This seems to have concede with the appointment of Messi as the head of the GMC. Now, I don't know who the GMC is. I don't know who the GMC is. So if you hear me meeting, it's because I've got to go see to my little one because she's woken up. So the GMC, I'm going to see who they are. So the GMC is the General Medical Council. So the General Medical Council, I think they regulate the doctors as well, the training and all that. Let me see what else they do. Oh, the GMC is the one who also go and investigates the doctors and the nurses. I need to go look at that a little more. But anyway, so basically when they tried to raise the alarm on Lucy Letby and the managers took no notice, right? Really, like I said, the manager should have taken a dive with her basically as well, because even the clause, the whistleblowing clause, which I'm trying to find the newest one, what the government put out, because there is a new one that the government put out recently, because the Chancellor, I can't remember. I think it's the health chancellor spoke about it. So there's supposed to be one fresh new one put out, the policy, because they're saying that how they could have saved the lives of the babies because she turned it into harassment, because she turned it into something else, because she turned it into herself. And it's not just her alone who's done this. And they said also because of the ignorance of the managers, she could have probably had been caught a long time ago. So the whistleblowers got the worst of it. So the Indian guy, which is Ravi, he raised concerns like as I said before, he raised concerns from a long time. Him and another older gentleman raised concerns about it, but instead it got flipped and turned the next way. So let me see if I could find more information on the whistleblowing thing. Oh yeah, then they said there's going to be another inquiry into how the NHS do, like, you know, like how the people like letby, like if something happens, so the NHS will go to ombudsman, whatever that is word, says an inquiry must be stationary. Statutory, stationary. The injury into the murders committed by Lucy should be given powers to compel witnesses to give evidence. The NHS, this word ombudsman, has said Barons has called for inquiries to be put on the statutory footing for there to be a wider review of leadership culture in the NHS. The government ordered investigation after letby was found guilty of unaliving 7 babies, trying to unalive 6 more. So, being that she got put into jail, following the sentences, the government announces an inquiry to investigate the evidence of countless Chester Hospital's neonatal unit between 2015 to 2016 to ensure the lessons are learned. However, there have been calls from the families of victims for the inquiry to be put on statutory footing. In the letter, the Health Secretary Steve Barclay, Mr. Barons, and the Parliamentary Health and Service has now echoed these demands. He said only the statutory inquiry should provide the strong legal powers necessary to comply the witness the release of evidence. In the inquiry should have all possible levels available to it to get to the truth, he said. The families involved deserve no less. So they obviously had an interview on it that he thought it would be wise for the Secretary of State to make this inquiry a more wider range statutory inquiry. The second thing is that we need is a cross-party independent review of leadership, accountability, culture in the NHS, he said. Although appalling actions of Lisa letby are extremely rare. Unfortunately, the culture of fear in the NHS Trust is not isolated to the case. Leaders dismissing the concerns of the staff of pattern behaviour that we see repeated across the NHS. Also said the ombudsman says that he wanted his powers expanded to allow him to investigate wider issues in the addition to his current role, which he described as being focused on the complaints on the NHS users. So there's a lot to read. So this has like the clinicals throughout the last 6 years get in touch with me and say they have patient safety issues to raise, but they but they fear that if they raise them, there will be dismissal, and they would lose their careers. He said, "Under the law, I cannot, as is presently stands, I cannot look at the complaints of staff, only at the service users." So then he's going on about the whistleblower. He said that the whistleblowing legalization in England doesn't work properly. It needs badly reforming in a way that has taken place in Scotland, adding, "I have been arguing for 6 years that my powers are too constrained. All my international counterparts have the power to look into issues that have not been complained about." He said, "I do not have that power. I can only investigate cases where people complain. The law needs to be changed on that." Speaking the broadcast, Mr. Buckley said that the Prime Minister had already stated that the government would ensure that the legal framework for the inquiry has full confidence of the families affected. So let me continue. "I'll be engaging with them on that, whether that's on a statutory or a non-statutory basis, to ensure the inquiry look into issues such as whistleblowers and other actions and related to these cases are fully investigated. So clearly there is a whole range of questions that have been raised by the case. They need to be looked at fully through a detailed inquiry. We need to ensure that the inquiry has a full confidence of families affected. That's why I'm engaging with those families about the right legal framework for inquiry." And this is the guy that they're talking about. The other day he made a full parliamentary thing on in Parliament about it. He spoke about the families, he spoke about how he felt about Lucy Letby, and he also spoke about how the whistleblowing, how it's dealt with. Now I'm gonna try find it because I found it before where he spoke about it, because he really wants to change everything. So, "Hi 7 grams, hi Professor X, hi Chrissy." So he really wants to change how the act is carried out, how the whistleblower, because even that thing what I looked at, that's supposed to protect the whistleblowers, that document there, which I might have to find bits and take pictures of, but the let me see if I could find it where he was talking.
"Mr. Speaker, the crimes of Lucy Letby were some of the very worst the United Kingdom has witnessed. I know that nothing can come close to righting the wrongs of the past, but I hope that Lady Justice Thirlwell's inquiry committed to putting robust sets to protect patient safety and to make sure the lessons from this horrendous case are fully learned."
The appointment of Lady Justice Thirlwell to lead the inquiry in the there is no punishment that could possibly fit the severity of the has committed to the extent of her crimes. What we do know is her victims should be starting a new term of school today. Our thoughts are with the families who have suffered the worst of traumas, whose pain and suffering we can possibly imagine, who will never forget the children cruelly taken from them. We hope that the sentencing helped bring some closure, even though the cowardly killer dared not face them in court. I want to pay tribute to the heroes of this story, the doctors who fought to sound the alarm in the face of hard-headed, stubborn refusal. While this murderer should have been stopped months before she was finally suspended, were it not for the persistent courage of the staff who finally forced the hospital to call in Cheshire Police, more babies would have been put at risk. I'm sure the whole House will want to join me in recognising Dr. Stephen Breary and Dr. Ravi Jayaram, whose bravery has almost certainly saved lives. Blowing the whistle on wrongdoing is never easy, and that's why it should not be taken lightly. Indeed, you can judge the health of an institution by the way it treats its whistleblowers. The refusal to listen, to approach the unexplained deaths of infants with an open mind, to properly investigate when the evidence appears to be so clear, is simply unforgivable. The insult of ordering concerned medics to write letters of apology to this serial killer demonstrates the total lack of seriousness with which their allegations were treated. Can I welcome the fact that the Secretary of State has changed the terms of the inquiry and put it on a statutory footing? There must be no hiding place for those responsible for such serious shortcomings. It is welcome that the inquiry will have the full force of the law behind it as it seeks to paint the full picture of what went wrong at the Countess of Chester Hospital. And it is right that the wishes of the families affected have been listened to. And I welcome the fact that they're going to be involved in the drawing up of the terms of reference. I asked the Secretary of State, and in fact, people right across government and people who hope to be in government in the future, to make sure that in future, families and victims are consulted at the outset in awful cases like this and others like it. And can he assure the House that the families will continue to be involved in decisions as the inquiry undertakes its work? Mr. Speaker, no stone can be left unturned in the search for the lessons that must be learned, but it is already clear that there were deep issues with the culture and leadership of the Countess of Chester Hospital. And this is not the first time that whistleblowers working in the NHS have been ignored when listening to their warnings could have saved lives. Despite several reviews, there is no one who thinks the system of accountability, professional standards, and regulation of NHS managers and leaders is good enough. Why were senior leaders at the Countess of Chester Hospital still employed in senior positions in the NHS right up to the point that Lucy Letby was found guilty of murder? The absence of serious regulation means a revolving door of individuals with a record of poor performance or misconduct can continue to work in the health service. Does the Secretary of State agree that this is simply unacceptable in a public service which takes people's lives into its hands? The lack of consistent standards is also hampering efforts to improve the quality of management. I'm sure the Secretary of State will agree with me that good management is absolutely vital for staff well-being, clinical outcomes, efficient services, and most of all, patient safety. The case for change has been made before. Sir Robert Francis, who led the inquiry into the deaths at mid-staffs, argued in 2017 that NHS managers should be subject to professional regulation. In 2019, the CART review commissioned by the Secretary of State called for a regulator to maintain a register of NHS executives with the power to disbar managers for serious misconduct. In 2022, the Messenger Review commissioned by the Right Honourable Member for Bromsgrove recommended a single set of core leadership and management standards for managers, with training and development provided to help them meet those standards. We must act to prevent further tragedies. So I welcome his announcement that his department is reconsidering CART's recommendation 5. Labour is calling for the disbarring of senior managers found guilty of serious misconduct, so I can guarantee him our support if he brings that proposal forward. He should also go further. Will the Secretary of State now begin the process of bringing in a regulatory system for NHS management alongside standards and quality training? Surely we owe it to the families and the staff who were let down by a leadership team at the Countess of Chester Hospital that was simply not fit for purpose. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I know I speak for the whole House when I say that the parents of child A, child C, child D, child E, child G, child I, child O, and child P are constantly in our thoughts, as are the many other families who worry whether their children have also been victims of Lucy Letby. We owe it to them to do what we can to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. And as the government seeks to do that, they will have our full support.
Bruce. Well, firstly, Mr. Speaker, can I thank the honourable gentleman, Dave, for the content of his response and the manner in which he delivered it. And I think it underscores the unity of this House in our condemnation of these crimes and our focus on putting the families central to getting answers to the questions that arise from this case. I join him in paying tribute to those consultants who spoke up to trigger the police investigation and to prevent further harm to babies. And I know the further work that the police are doing in this case, and also paying tribute to the police team that I had the privilege of meeting, who again have worked incredibly hard in very difficult circumstances in the course of this investigation. As he said in his response, the families are absolutely central to the approach that we're taking, and that's why I felt it was very important to discuss with them the relative merits of different types of statutory inquiry. But their response was very clear in terms of their preference for a statutory inquiry, and I have certainly surfaced to Lord Justice Thirlwell some of the comments from the family in terms of the potential perhaps to phase that, but of course these will be issues for the judge to determine. In terms of his concerns around the revolving door, there are clearly a number of measures that have already been taken, but I share his desire to ensure that there is accountability for decisions, and indeed members of the House will know that in past months I have been particularly vocal around making points in that regard, and I think again that is central to many of the questions that the families have in terms of the wider regulation within the NHS. He mentioned the importance of good management, and I'm extremely interested through this review and also the steps we can take ahead of the review as to how we put further support into managers within the NHS and also into non-exec directors. Indeed, the government accepted in full the 7 recommendations of the Messenger review. The CART review was largely accepted. There was the issue of recommendation 5, and that is why it's right that we look again at that in the light of the further evidence. So it is clear a significant amount of work has already gone in. There are a number of figures, including Aidan Fowler, Henrietta Hughes, focused particularly on safeguarding patient safety. But we need to, in the wake of this case, look again at where we can go further. The inquiry will do that with the full weight of the law and the statutory inquiry, but I'm also keen we look at what further quicker measures can be taken, and indeed I've been in regular contact with the NHS England to take that work forward.
So that was the Secretary of the 2 different Secretaries of State that was talking about how they're going to change the whistleblowing, how they're going to deal with the families, how they're going to take it to a whole, just overhaul some of the NHS, like the whistleblowing policy, particularly because if you're talking about your colleague and they're doing something wrong, and then later on, right, they tell you that you're harassing them and all this stuff, and you have to end up apologizing to them, where you yourself see wrong, I forgot the word that they called it now. There's a word that they call it. I forgot the word. But anyway, there is a word for that, because what you're doing is that how, right, you're talking of like whatever, what's it, the misuse or misdealings of patients. I can't remember what the word's called. The mistreatment of patients. So this also goes as far as the other sorts of NHS key workers stuff too, because like every care worker, every NHS worker knows about the Whistleblowing Act or knows what it carries and knows what you have to do. There is regulations that follows true. You have to know how to deal with um, bringing up stuff about the colleague, right? You know what I mean? Then the manager has to be able to sort it out or resolve it or whatever. Many people lose their jobs. I know, Noel, many people lose their jobs if there is something wrong, if it is a misuse or not doing what you're supposed to do when you're on duties, i.e. when you're not dealing with patients, carers. I mean, when I'm training as a carer, and I heard about the regulations and how you can deal with clients in particularly, and like if you go and you whistleblow and there's no solution, obviously, right, you have to go above the managers. But I think in this case they couldn't go above the managers because they literally had to apologize to the person that was whistleblowing on, because she made herself seem like she was the victim of whatever, so-called harassment. So it can go one or two ways really, because that's why when he said that, how right, the families is they're more important, because really you have a duty to the client or patient. Now any care worker will tell you that, any key worker will tell you this. Right, that's why the whistleblowing was put in place in the first place. The reason why the whistleblowing has been going on for a long time. And one of the whistleblowing, what was more famous over here or more out there, was the one with the kid with the mental hospital, I think it's a mental hospice or mental home, where people was being looked after and they was being mistreated by the people there, right? So when one of them whistleblowed, the one who was the head thug per se, he got time for it, and the ones who was joining in taunting the mental patients and dealing with them a certain way, not giving them their rights, not giving them their dignity, not doing certain stuff. Because even when you come into certain stuff, this is one of the reasons why I really want to work in the carers industry, because when you know that how there is certain stuff that goes on in the care industry, in like even to do with something like this, the NHS in particularly, which is one of the biggest thing around the UK at present, where you are taking care of somebody, you are giving that care, you know what you got to do, right? You know what you got to do to do the care. You yourself have to keep yourself well trained up so that you don't fall behind, so that you know exactly what's going on, because each regulation carries something else. Now, the letby had also the records, which is the duty of care, the what's it call it, the personal care of the baby. So she was able to know what medication, how much adrenaline to give them, how much certain stuff to give them. That's why when one of the doctors explained about how he walked in on her, I think, and he said that the life came out of the child. She gave too much of something to the child. So when he whistleblowed, and considering that they've been whistleblowing from 2015 to now, to this time now, till she got arrested, right, there was no fault for these children. There was no care for the children. You see, when he listed the children and the families that are linked to it, because like you have a duty of care to the family as well, because like you're making sure that when you give them that that treatment, whatever, personal care, whatever, is one of the things that you have to give. You know what I mean? Now, some of the care people could come into the comment section. They can correct me on certain things if I'm wrong, because and it always says that how if you see people not doing what they're supposed to be doing, you are supposed to go and you are supposed to call it to the managers, particularly, right? And you are not supposed to be the one being told that you have to tell them sorry when you know that they're in the wrong, right? Fair enough, right? People can have bad days. They could come in pissed off, or they could come in whatever, family, whatever. But this lady right here, she did a lot to the children. She literally took out whatever she has mentally going on with her, took it out on these vulnerable children. And to be honest, right, if I could find the most recent whistleblowing act, because there is a whistleblowing act. There's always regulations for everything. There's regulations for taking care of the surrounding area to do patients. There's especially when they have things coming in and out of noses, stuff like that. And I'm sure she had records of this one of the babies, and I don't know, I can't put into words really, but that's how I see the whistleblowing part of it as well. So to me, this is a discussion for anyone who works in care, whether it's stateside or here, because it's something that if your colleague is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, like you come in and your patients, your client or patient, or there's something wrong with the patient, and you check the records and it doesn't make sense what is being done to the patient or the client, you have to make that decision. You have to make that call at the end of the day. And the managers really didn't really do their job. That's why they said that how the managers should have got taken to the general medical investigation place, which should have happened as well. They should have got taken to the GMC, right? Which I didn't even know there was a GMC, right? So they should have been taken to the GMC or whoever they need to take. Probably have to write letters to for the upper ones, unions, all that sort of stuff, because if this didn't get nipped in the bud on time, there would have been more on the live little ones right at present. So this conversation could have gone another way. So hopefully now that they're putting in place the new whistleblowing act, because I think that's the old one that I kind of looked at, because there's a lot of reading, as you can see, there's a lot of pages. It's one of those where you have to sit down and take time and look over it. You can't just spontaneously look at it and take out bits out of it. Okay, so it does say on there that how the employee has a right to go and talk on to disclose stuff on their other colleague, or to the managers. So the guys use their rights as well, and they kind of didn't even. I don't know whether I'm explaining it properly. I don't know. I don't want to talk all over the place because I know I can do that, right? But I'm not even speculating. I don't want to have assumptions. I'm just saying, from what I know from doing certain training, that how there is a whole regulation about this. So when I saw the whistleblowing thing, because there is a policy on it as well. So, but you can tell me if I'm wrong in the chat, because it's I don't know, it's one of those ones that when you're talking about somebody who's done something so severe to little ones, particularly, we know patients, elderly, also there is people like this in homes as well. Okay, so and they sometimes are not being cared for in the best way neither. So, there's a lot going on. I mean, the NHS is really going through it. They've been going through it for a while. So I think this right now, people are not going to be going to hospitals to have their babies. They're most probably going to get a doula in because they're probably going to be scared that something will happen to the children or whatever. So that's why I played the parliamentary stuff, because I think when I'm reading it, it doesn't, like, I'm reading it like some of the words won't make sense. So when you hear it from the horse's mouth themselves, it's easier for you to understand that this lady really caused a dent in the NHS. Things will never be the same again. It wasn't the same when Shipman done whatever, and I can't remember how he got found out. It wasn't the same when the other Angel of Death got found out. And I think she did get whistleblowed on, I think, as well. But I'll double check that before I seal it. But it just shows that, it's just, I don't know. It's a conversation anyway to be had. But we know as a people, when you are the one on the opposite side of the thing, you're not the one giving care to your loved ones, and you put your loved ones in the care of I wouldn't say government, of the doctors and nurses and stuff like that. And then there's someone who's like this, who goes and does what she does, and someone calls it, you know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of glad that they're doing a whole inquiry. I don't know how long the inquiry takes, because inquiries normally take pretty long over here. They can take years in most cases. Sometimes it's not result to how many years later. And to be honest, they needed to overhaul it maybe at this present time. And this has come and just flung a stone in the ocean to start the ripple. But Ravi and the older guy who whistleblowed on her particularly, they must have faced a lot of backlash, I would think, where they were saying that how they was harassing her and all this stuff and all this sympathy, what she required, and it's just a lot. Because even sometimes when I'm going through certain stuff, the reason why I haven't gone and looked at other podcasts is on this, because I want to gather my own opinion on this. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's good to hear other opinion on this, but sometimes it's good to give your own opinion on this, especially when it comes to the health of a child. Because, like, you have to take your child right to hospital in so many different circumstances to get their teeth done. They have to take anesthetic, and then, you got to be able to trust the nurse and the doctor that's in front of you. If you cannot trust the nurse and doctor that is in front of you, that's when it comes an issue. Because if the child has severe illness on top of it, and then they choose to take that life, and then it doesn't get told about, from the ones who's in the same office with that person, then nothing happens. Then you have to go and cause a stir amongst the people who's supposed to be giving that care. It's a circle. It's a circular thing. It's a crazy thing. Now, when they talk about the small ones who sound like premature babies, neonatal, that is brain clinic, neonatal, neonatal, clinic area, basically. So that's to do brains and etc. They work with the brain. So this lady had children who probably have problems with brain, water in their brain, all sorts of things wrong with them. And she chose to take the life. And the result of it is how you see it now. Now, I'm not going to try not to repeat myself on this, but I feel that I have to repeat myself because this can happen anywhere. Just because it's happened over here doesn't mean to say it's not going to happen in the stateside, okay? So when people think that how you could just do that to small little children who's just been born like a couple days. They get moved to, so they can breathe, get moved to, I even forget the place where they call it the NIC. The NIC, I think it's called in special babies unit. That's what it's called, special babies unit over here. I've been captive since you made videos about it. Oh, really, Noel? Because it's very crazy that how this lady got away with it for a long time. Then they tried to put her out as an angel. Now there are many angels of deaths out there. Many angels of deaths is out there when you think about it, right? Right? So we go and put ourselves in their hand. You can go in for a car crash, you can go for all sorts of things, and then you're putting yourself in their care. This has been known that even angels of death have unalive people in hospitals. So we're not just talking about the babies now, we're talking about even big people. We're talking about elderly, the vulnerable. These are the most vulnerable people, right? So you have to think further afield. When you're looking at this case, you have to think like if you was in the shoes of that family. Like two of them, I think 2 babies that was unalive was twins. And one is disabled now, the other one passed. It's like there's no shadow of that how they should have listened to the ones who called it. They should have listened to them. They didn't listen. They said, oh no, you're picking on her. When in fact, they was actually on the button. They actually was right. And I know there is petty people out there who whistleblow on people for no reason. Yes, there is that flip side as well. But what about the ones who's really doing the badness out there? So when they start inquiring now, and they can look in, they can check records, they can check times, they can check you know how it goes in the medical field. I don't know how it goes. I haven't been there yet myself. They check from when the person makes contact with the persons or the child to when you leave them. Okay, from my understanding to how this thing goes, it's the same in care. It's actually the same. This thing, what's happened here, is actually the same thing that goes on amongst carers. Carers as well get whistleblowed on too. Yeah, that happens to them because they don't give the care to the elderly that's in their care. And I put up a video. There's a video, not me put up a video, but I posted a video of an old lady on the floor in America when the people wanted to get the beds. They put the elderly outside near the hospital. So that's not giving them care. That is just moving around for whatever sake. And probably they got whistleblowed on them too, because you can't do that to people who is weaker than you, who has no voice. Like the lady was wrapped up in the duvet, if I remember rightly, in the duvet from the hospital. She didn't even have clothes on. Somebody had to come and pick her up. So this case can go either way, because there is negligence everywhere. And this was negligent. What happened to the babies? But, I'm not going to go on and on and on, because I'm going to repeat myself, and I don't want to repeat myself. But this just shows you how something severe have to overhaul the whole policy, the whole everything else. Now, if I found the right policy, right, I could have gone through that a little bit. But I think what's going to happen is I'll have, like with the letters is another thing. The letters, what she said, because they have evidence of her letters, they have evidence, records, and everything. So they literally can go through all of the stuff, what she left in her room, all the stuff, what she left, all of the records that she wrote in the hospital. Plus she had eyewitnesses that was there when the lady, one of the nurses said she was panicking. Lucy Letby was just standing there. One of the parents confirmed it, and one of the doctors as well confirmed it. Yeah, neonatal intensive care, that's the one. I had premature baby 35 years ago, and I had to trust the nurses. Yeah, exactly. See what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. So to think that how this lady did such a chilling thing, and it took it to go to Parliament for it to be changed, the policy. And they said how much cases. Hold on, if I can get it up. The cases is a lot. The cases is a lot. If I can find it again. There was 87 out of 125 cases, and 50% whistleblowers was below 50% in 108 out of 220 hospitals. So that's a lot. That's a lot of whistleblowers that probably don't whistleblow. 220 hospitals. That's a lot. Or it could even be more. I think that's just the estimation what they put up on the article. So the managers really let down the patients, they let down the parents, they let down the public. The public will probably never trust to go in with a premature child that is separated from his mother, because most times when it's a premature child, they take the child and put it in incubation so it can get gas and air or whatever else be fed through the tubes. See, there you go. I just remembered. Through the tubes, through the blood. I think what else is there? They check the heartbeat. Some children are very transparent in skin. You can see their veins. You know, some people got very triggered because of this case because they have lost babies in hospitals, etc. All right, a lot of people got triggered by this, and hopefully they will do better next time, because there shouldn't be a next time. Basically, there shouldn't be a next time. If anything, it should be more tighter reins so that this doesn't happen again, so that there is not another Lucy Letby that is walking around. Well, basically another Harold Shipman, another, what to call it, Maya Hinley. I can't remember the other lady's name because there's been quite a few. I think even today something jumped up again on my timeline, referring to certain things going on in hospitals. So, you know, like I said, the things have to change. But anyways, I'm gonna come off. Let me see what you said. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you had a premature baby. Yeah, the neo-intensive care. That's where the children was. Yeah. No, it's good to know because there's a whole lot of talk on this one. The reason why I keep getting distracted, that's why when I'm saying I've got to do something, I get distracted and then I have to try and go back to it. But yeah, so I just thought I'd do this small video. If the reading was caca, well, it is right now, okay? But I know what I'm trying to say. I know what I'm trying to put out is it's one of those ones where, like, you know what you want to say, right? Sometimes you get tongue-tied because, like, my brain runs ahead of my mouth sometimes, so I have to reel it in. But I know that how they've changed the policy, so I don't know whether they change it now or whether they're in the middle of changing it or whether they're in the whatever of changing it. But hopefully I will keep an eye and see how it goes, because, and even if I don't talk about it, right, there is well, you know, you know me, I'll put information out. I'm an information junkie by myself, but I'll put it out because there is a whistleblowing policy that explains the policy of how it goes. It explains from from A to B, or one, two, three, how it goes, because they have to review what you're talking about. They obviously didn't review, they didn't take into they didn't think about what had happened, what was going on with this lady. They brushed it over. That's what the managers did. And when you do see what the managers look like, even like you see why they brushed it over, because they didn't want to be bothered with it. They're happy. They're quite happy where they are. Hi, so Amma. They're quite happy and comfortable living where they at. So it's like, they're not bothered with people who's got these children, who's in special care or intensive care units. My 7-year-old grandnephew was born at 24 weeks. Oh, that's very small. I know. That's a small baby. So, it's one of those ones where if not taken seriously, things like this can happen again and again and again, because there might be another angel of death out there as I'm talking right now. There might be another angel of death, and probably their colleagues have spoken about them, and they've gone and turned it and said, "Oh, they're harassing me, this, that, and the other." Nothing gets done. Right? People start falling out, dropping out. Like I said, these people could turn up in any kind of form of job where they're taking care of people, because not everybody's genuine. Not everybody just wants to be there for the people that they're taking care of. Some people go there for all kind of reasons. Some people happen to go there because of family. Their family's been in the care system for how long? So it is one of those hard cases. It's not simple. It's not a simple case. Even me talking about this right now, like I said, if I didn't do a caring training on this thing, about the whistleblowing thing, and I don't even think I even explained it right now, but it's a lot to explain about the whistleblowing thing. It's one of those things where you yourself have to consider a lot of stuff. Would I be taken seriously? Are they going to listen to me? Especially if you see something done to a child. Chrissy, my daughter was born at 24 weeks. I wasn't even conscious for 3 days. I'm just glad my family was there to monitor things. It's scary. I'll send you his videos. Oh, okay. No, how is your little one now? Hi, so Amma. I know. Yeah, it's very severe thing. It's a very severe to think about as such a small little infant that ain't done nothing, and then somebody like that is there with them. Can you imagine? It's just, it's very sad, to think about. Oh well, the same as my nephew. He weighed 1 pound 1 ounce at birth. That's a very small baby. So when we're talking about this, everybody, children, grandchildren, has even been in intensive care or special baby care unit. Okay, it's a serious thing. This, you know what I'm saying? This will probably change, like I said, the face of how the NHS is looked at. Okay, there is no CPS day after West. Oh, it's not a CPS. It's medical practitioners who's not doing their stuff right, and the managers that are not taken seriously when people whistleblowing on them. So it's one of it's one of those ones, But anyways, I'm not going to stay on here for long. I have to cut a bit out when it does do what it does, and I don't know whether I imparted anything. I don't know, but I'm just thinking when the policy does come out and they rehold the change the policy, whatever they're going to do to it, then we'll see from then, because this was one of the biggest cases in British, one of the British, one highlighted case in British history. Lucy Letby is now archived in Britain's history, just like how the Magdalena laundries was, just like how the reform schools are. She is there on the list. She's archived right now. Chrissy, my daughter, 31 months. Noel, it's really very scary experience. My niece was 20 at the time. She had to grow up overnight. I was shocked by how many hours she was working. Yeah, the lady, Lucy was really doing a lot. She was really doing a lot. But, I see that you all are talking about it in the chat. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to come off. I'm not going to prolong the stream longer than I have to, because I don't know whether I made my point. But anyway, if I have, I have. But you get the gist of what I'm talking about, I hope. I hope you understand what I'm talking, because I know sometimes I can go off the rails. I can go south. I can speak in the middle of a sentence. I do that sometimes. And it's really, really, it's a scary thought at the end of the day. It's very scary. A good doctor in the hospital. Yes. Yes, no, there's that as well. That's a scary thought, what you just said there. Chrissy, I bet the first year was stressful, and she was on small. She had no other. What's it? Not the big size. No, well, my nephew spent. Oh yeah, they're having a conversation about the small babies, the small infants, complications. So Chrissy's 35 years. So yeah, but I am gonna get off. I'm gonna get off. I'll see you in the next stream, or probably upload, however it goes. I might even just upload how, like, when I'm like how I normally used to do, because the lives, to when you have the information to get it is very different. 95% of medical procedures today should be outlawed. We're not talking about this procedures. We're talking about what this lady did, though. No, to the children. What she did to the children is unspeakable. You don't do that to someone's child who's underweight, probably got water in the brain, all sorts of stuff. Did they say what her mental disorder is? No, they haven't said what her mental disorder is. I think that's why they're going to inquire into it. Yeah. Replay it. No, replay it, because it's a serious thing. This is serious. This is going to happen anyway. To be in fact, so like I said, there is. I have to go over the policy, but I will look over it again, because I think that's an old policy, and I can't seem to find the part what I found earlier, because I did find a part that explained about the employee going to the managers, and why they shouldn't have thingy used against them, because they are, because they was told that they was harassing the lady when they wasn't. They was actually trying to well, they snitched on her for a reason, basically. Put it that way. Let's say it like that. They snitched on her for a good reason, and the managers didn't take it seriously. But yeah, but she was always on duty. Yeah, she was on duty a lot. I mean, I haven't listened to that podcast thing yet because I don't want to get mad when I listen to it. Because if I listen to it, I will get mad. So that's why I'm trying not to listen. I only listen to certain stuff so that I could put my own opinion on it, because there's something definitely wrong with her. She is pure evil. There's something wrong with her. She's an evil, vile woman. Anyone who could do that, do what she did to parents, should never again see light. But they said that how she's not going to see light. They said that there's even a lady who's doing what's it like in the woman's prison where she's going to be. They said it's not going to be easy where she is going to be. They said it's not going to be easy at all. They even explained it, but I haven't put out the video because I get bombarded. Well, my mind goes all over the place sometimes. But yeah, she's a very wicked woman. Very, very wicked. So that's why I'm hoping that something comes out of it. Because when I do get to the care system myself, if I see something, I'm going to want to, like, if you see something out of the ordinary, you're going to want to tell the manager. You're not going to want to keep it to yourself if it's concerning the patient's wealth and well-being and harm. No harm come to the person. Did they say what type of medical problem she had? No, they haven't said. Noel. They haven't said. I'm still waiting to hear. I see bits and pieces. They keep showing the old stuff. They ain't really showing nothing. They ain't really put up nothing new. It's like you got to really look. And then because the parliament talked about it recently, that's why they're talking like this right now. So it's not really said. Well, maybe I missed it. Who knows? I probably missed it. But if I have missed it, I probably will find out soon. But they have not said whether she suffers from anything mental. I think it's just her. I think that's who she is. So, but anyways, I'm going to come off because it's getting late over here. And I don't want to repeat myself. I really don't. But yeah, so thank you for coming through, everybody. Let me go down the name line again. 7 grams, Professor X, Chrissy, Soul Armor. No. Now we're trying to blow life into my... Oh, they're still having a conversation. I'm going to shut down now, ladies. I'm going to close down. I'm sorry to interrupt your conversation. Yeah, I'm going to come off. I am literally going to go see if they said anything about her mental. I might even just do it now before I go to sleep. Because I think that's interesting that you bring that up. I'm going to see if I can see anything. If not, I have an email. You can forward it to that. Like, because happens stateside and here. And I'm sure there is angels of death in the States as well. I'm not saying it's not impossible. So yeah. So with that said, I'm gonna come off because I don't want to go over 2 hours. Okay. So thank you for listening. And hopefully I find a policy. I think I have a policy to do whistleblowing somewhere. But anyway, I'll find my one that I have, or I was kind of trained, right? And I will put it up. Because the relatives have power, I think, and the colleagues have powers. Just a matter of verbalizing it to the manager. So with that said, I will see you later, and I'll put it up in the comment section. Okay? So I'll see you guys later. Okay, very serious. Thank you for sharing. Oh, okay, because they're having their little conversation. So I'll see you, everybody. Take care. Bye.